like your little invention.
It's Hollywood quality.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. This is really great. I'll clip this, and I'll just put your name on it and things like that. But I'm really pleased you took the time to come back to campus and spend time with us. It's really terrific to see you again. So tell us about your experience and some lessons learned and things like that.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, this is where I live in Japan. As you can see, it's called Peace Culture Village. So I moved to Japan in 2016, and so a few colleagues and I founded this place, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But I guess the way I structured my presentation is first I thought I'd talk about what I did at BC and how that kind of gave me a foundation to go on to do what I'm doing now. So as BC students, or as a BC student, I was very lucky to have benefited from different grants that Boston College offers so that we can go explore the world. So I was lucky enough to go to Japan twice as an undergrad for the summer. So other things, so at BC I was part of the Japan Club, and I took 4 years of Japanese, which I was telling Maddie was really important for me now working in the countryside. I also was a resident assistant. I think I was in Keys and Welch on Upper. And then the first grant I did was called the Advanced Study Grant. I think it's offered for freshmen and sophomores. So I actually, the reason I decided to apply for this grant was because of my Asia in the World class. I took with Professor Clark. I don't think he's here anymore, but...
No, he went back to Australia.
Yeah. So we learned about hidden Christian history. And he was a Jesuit, so he talked a lot about the Jesuits' influence in different countries, and we learned about how the Jesuits brought Catholicism to Japan, and about the really, really tragic history of the Christians in Nagasaki. So I, the summer of my sophomore year, went to Nagasaki to study that, and as you can see, the hidden Christian history is very intertwined with the history of the bomb, the atomic bomb in Nagasaki. So these are some rosaries that were melded together because of the heat, blessed the bomb. And then this is Urakami Cathedral, which is kind of the center of the Christian community in Nagasaki. And you can see the old bell tower on the ground from the new structure. And the time when it was bombed, Nagasaki was the largest Christian population in East Asia. So it's kind of ironic. But I had never really learned about the atomic bombings, not even in high school. We didn't cover them. So it was really shocking for me. And so the next summer, I decided to apply for another grant that Eric actually helped me write. It was for the Center for Human Rights and International Justice. They have a summer research grant. And that summer of my junior year, I went to Hiroshima to study how Hiroshima's peace culture had changed after the Fukushima nuclear disaster. So as part of that, I'll show some slides about what I exactly did. So on August 6th in Hiroshima every year, there's a ceremony in the Peace Park. You can see that far picture. And the Prime Minister speaks, and it's right in the Peace Park. And so I attended that, and also the evening ceremony, they float lanterns down the river in front of the atomic bomb dome. And that river is where many of the people who died from the bombing, they jumped into the river. So it's a very powerful ceremony. When I was there, I also volunteered at the YMCA, and they had an international youth peace seminar with young people from all over the world: Singapore, Korea, Australia, India. So this was kind of the little seminar that we had for all of these high school students, and we learned about peace together, and I got to volunteer for that. I also had an internship at the World Friendship Center, which is it's a guest house actually founded by an American Quaker, but they are a guest house, but they also give the people staying there free tour of the museum and the Peace Park, and also they get to meet a bomb survivor while they're there and hear their testimony. So I interned there, and then I also got a chance to interview 25 different people involved in nuclear weapons and energy somehow in Hiroshima. Whether they were studying it, the effects of radiation on bomb survivors, whether they were bomb survivors, I got to meet lots of different people. And also on this trip, I met Stephen Lieber, who I ended up working for, and Joseph Gerson, who I ended up joining the peace movement. He was my mentor, so very important trip for me. And yeah. So when I got back, Boston College had lots of different forums that I could present my findings at. So I'm not sure if you still have BC Talks.
I think so.
Yeah, so that was really fun. And then I presented at the undergraduate research symposium, I think it's called. And then also to different student groups, like at the time, there was a Global Zero chapter here. So then after I graduated, I did not know what I wanted to do, kind of like right now. That hasn't changed. But the first thing that I tried after graduating was research at a think tank in DC called the Center for Strategic and International Studies. And I was working with the Japan chair there, doing research. So that was a really amazing experience. Unfortunately, I was an unpaid intern and DC was very expensive, so couldn't live there for that long. So then I moved back to Boston, where I had several different jobs in higher education administration. These aren't very good photos, they're the only ones I could find, but I worked at Harvard Kennedy School. They have it's the Masters in Public Administration and International Development. So that's what these students were studying, and I did secretarial work for them. And then I also worked at Boston University's ESL program. So those were my full-time jobs, and at the time I was also living at Showa Boston, which is a satellite campus of Showa Joshi Daigaku, which is an all-women's university in Tokyo, which was great. If anyone's interested in, Japan and they want to live here, they can get free room and board for being a resident assistant, essentially. So these are some of the students, and it was a really fantastic time. So my full-time jobs, I used them to finance my activism in a lot of ways. So when I came back from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I got really involved with anti-nuclear weapons activism and the peace movement here in Boston. And the first organization that really brought me into the fold was the American Front Service Committee. And through them, I got a lot of excellent opportunities. This one is every 5 years, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty is reviewed at the United Nations in New York. So the AFSC was involved in planning a conference for nonprofits and civil society groups beforehand. So I got to go to the United Nations and participate in workshops with the Nagasaki Youth Delegation, and it was fantastic. So that is one thing I got involved with. And then also through AFSC, I had the chance to go to Japan and participate in Gensuikyo, is the Japan Council Against A&H Bombs. So I was part of their Peace March, which is a 90-day march that goes from Tokyo to Hiroshima. And every year they have an international youth relay. So I was the last leg of the relay. And this is some photos of me and the other relay marchers from the Philippines, Guam, Germany, France, Japan. So I got to meet so many really inspiring activists from all over the world. AG, who's the gentleman with the long hair from the Philippines, he actually goes around the world painting murals and is a really fantastic climate activist. Another activist group I was involved with is Global Zero, which is a youth-led international movement to eliminate nuclear weapons. So they have an Action Corps program where 50 young people are tasked with creating Global Zero chapters. So I created a Global Zero chapter in Boston. And again, we got to go to the United Nations, and we did lots of events in Boston. This was the Global Zero chapter that we established because I was living at Showa. A lot of the students from Showa joined. And then as part of Global Zero, I learned how to lobby. So up here you can see we were lobbying embassies at the United Nations. We lobbied our congressmen and women. Met Carly Fiorina because we went bird dogging, which essentially means you kind of sit up front and are obnoxious and ask questions about nuclear weapons so that the candidate can get on the record saying something about your issue. So that's what I was up to before I moved to Japan. And then eventually, from doing all the things I did, I learned that I'm not a very good activist because I'm not very convincing, and I'm very easily convinced. So I thought that I would prefer to try my hand at something more conflict resolution oriented. And I also, from working at my desk jobs, realized that I was not really cut out for a desk job, and I had major ants in my pants. So Steve Leeper, who I had met in 2013 when I went to Hiroshima for the first time, I emailed him and said, what do I do? How do I move to Hiroshima? And he said, well, why don't you just come help me start this nonprofit? So I was like, okay. And so back to Peace Culture Village. This is where my adventure led me. One, I do not suggest as an American anyone should found a Japanese nonprofit. It has been very challenging. And also I was in Japan on 3 consecutive tourist visas before I finally got a work visa, which is not good. Immigration hated me. So I had to go to Korea for 2 hours to change my visa, and they almost did not let me back in the country. So, founding an organization in Japan has been challenging. But yeah, I arrived there October 2016. And so a little bit about what Peace Culture Village is. It's a Japanese nonprofit, an eco-village, and a peace training camp. So in Hiroshima, my boss, Stephen Leeper, was the former chairman of the Peace Museum in Hiroshima that many people visit every year. And as the chairman of the Hiroshima Peace Culture Foundation, he realized that people in Hiroshima actually don't talk about what peace culture is. So that's where the name comes from. And so we endeavored to create a place that people in Hiroshima could come to explore what peace culture means in a concrete and experiential way. So these are just some quick pictures of what we do. So we work within 2 spheres. On campus, we have staff, interns, and volunteers or visitors that come from all over the world to study nonviolent conflict resolution and sustainable living practices in an experiential way. So we do it by living in community, by growing our own food, and by being involved in our wider Japanese community. And then off campus, we make Hiroshima's peace culture accessible to foreigners visiting Hiroshima. And we take them from the city into the countryside and introduce them to Japanese folks doing really interesting projects on different peace culture issues like conflict resolution or sustainable agriculture or inner peace. So this is it's called Kolnu. Kolnu is where I live. It's 2 hours north of Hiroshima. And this is our village. It's 2,500 people. And one thing that I've learned so much from living in this community because the people here, they rely on each other to survive. So they rely on each other to help harvest rice every year. Or we had really big floods this summer, and people in my community made sure I was evacuated, and they go to the homes of elderly people to make sure they're evacuated. So it's an amazing community to be in. So we have these great Konu shirts. I'm one of the only English speakers in town, so I'm proud to say I designed the English. And then this is a photo of our fall festival. So you can see the foreigners sprinkled in. Those are our staff. And I thought that I would show a quick video. So Peace Culture Village has a YouTube channel, and I probably won't show the whole thing, but this is just a video about our rice harvest this year. So, Americans and Japanese harvesting together. I'm not sure how loud the volume will be. Yeah. So you can see these are 2 community members who are Japanese from a city, and they came out because they want to get a taste of the countryside. So most people don't harvest rice by hand, but we try to use as little oil as possible and as little machinery as possible. So these are some local English teachers who came out to help us from the community, and as you can see, we've created these racks called hazekake, and that's how we dry the rice. You leave the rice there for 2 weeks, and we don't know how to do this, so we're trying our best to tie the knots. This is my boss, Steve, and this is Nari-san. He's our farm manager. So in this clip, he's teaching us how to, this is rice straw from last year's harvest, so we're getting it wet so that it'll be more pliable to tie the bundles of rice. That's Hannah, our cat. And yeah, so, and then there's also this, it's a local method, but to make sure the rice dries, we make, it's like a rice umbrella or a hat with the rice on top. So he was explaining how that was a local technique. And we also have chickens. They were eating our rice. It was very frustrating. But yeah, so that's just like a little taste of what a day at Peace Culture Village might look like around harvest time. See if this will go back. There we go. Okay, so about the inside of our house. So we live in a traditional Japanese home, but these are pictures of some of our rooms. So I live in that one. It's a girls' dormitory, and then we have the men's dormitory, and another guest room. And we have had workshops where we renovated them using eco-friendly techniques. We also belong to a local car sharing program. So in Konu, where I live, there's this gentleman who's been really inspired by a European car sharing model. So we have this car on our property, and anyone from the community can use it, and there's a reservation system online, and we have like a plug-in station at our campus. Also, for anyone who wishes to live or work in Japan, the homes are not built for the winter unless you're in Hokkaido, which is the northernmost island, and we don't have any way of heating our home except for a wood-burning stove, so we chop a lot of wood every morning. So this is just a video, let's see if it'll work, of me hanging my laundry inside my house last winter, and as you can see, it's frozen. So also in Japan, there's no dryers, so you have to hang it. So yeah, just heads up, it's really cold in the winter in Japan. Not as cold as Boston, obviously, but it's just, there's no central heating. So for our farm, here's our chickens. We do kill the chickens to eat them sometimes, so I've learned how to butcher and defeather and do that. It's sad, but delicious. And we get about 1 to 6 eggs per day from our chickens. This is a picture of the farm looking from the house, and you can see we have a field and we have a bunch of rice paddies. We have a greenhouse where we have hotbeds. So you take fallen leaves, cow poop, and rice bran, rice husk, and mix it all together, and then it ferments and it heats your greenhouse so that you can start the plants. These are just some examples of the things that we make. So a lot of the food, like where I live, it's really inexpensive because we eat a lot of the food that we produce. So those are just some produce. That one up there is shiso, which I'm not sure, I think it might be just Japan, but it's a leaf that then you can make into this really delicious juice. That's one of our chickens. And then this is pizza, which we actually make using the wheat that we grow, and we make it into pizza dough, and then we built our own pizza oven. So it's really cool and delicious. And then, as I showed before on the farm, my favorite part is rice. So every year we get to plant the rice, and we get barefoot and go in the rice paddy, and then we harvest the rice, and then we thresh the rice with, we have a lot of, this is like a traditional threshing machine where you pump it with your foot. Let's see, I think, looks like I have another video clip. Oh, okay. So I was supposed to show you the rice harvest video now. This was the video I was going to show earlier, but this is to get a little bit more of an idea of what the community is like. So every year we have a festival. The god in our village is called Susano Omikoshi, and he's the god of water and storms. So this is at our local temple. There's lots of really great traditions that we're able to participate in at Peace Culture Village, and the community is really nice and welcomes us. So Susano's in there, and you can see they're splashing water on him. And every year he goes to see his lover. So we have to actually drag him down this really big hill, which you'll see. So what's really awesome about this is that the whole community comes to bring him down the hill, but bringing him back up the hill is much harder and happens 2 days later. And, you know, if everyone from the community doesn't show up and pull at the same time, it doesn't move.
Wow.
So it's an amazing exercise in community building, which I don't think we really have many community-focused holidays. Most are family-focused, it seems, in the US. So that has been an incredible experience for me. We also do English programs. So we just walk down the hill, pick up a bunch of kids, and walk back up. And we have, as you can see, one side we have our staff, and one side we have our students. So a lot of times we have, you know, a bunch of English speakers together in a class, which is really fun. And then we have high school students that we teach. We also try to do, you know, American holiday-themed parties. So this was, the businesses in Konu partnered with us, and we did like a trick-or-treat thing. And then this was a Christmas party we did. And then the final thing I'm going to talk about is our peace camps. So as I said earlier, we have, you know, foreigners that come to Hiroshima normally only spend 1 day in the city. They don't come to the countryside, which I think is a huge part of what Hiroshima's peace experience is in the countryside. So this was a group of Japanese and Germans who came out to Peace Culture Village from the YMCA, and you can see over there we're doing narashi somen, which is, we've got a bamboo, and then you put the noodles at the top, and there's running water, and they go down, and you pick it up. I don't know, I guess it's tastier that way. This is a group we had of Indonesian college students who were interested in learning about Japanese agriculture. So we took them to a nearby spinach farm that is trying to use as little pesticides as possible, and we translated for them so that they could interact with those folks. This is a group of Korean folks who were in Japan to help people build heated floors. And they came to Peace Culture Village for a workshop on how to build a rocket stove, which is, it's like you can build it for under $10, and the idea originated in Africa, and it's very efficient. You don't have to use as much wood because of the way, I don't know, I don't really understand it, but we had them over for a workshop on that. So that's the end of my presentation. I guess to say that, you know, it's definitely been an adventure, and in all honesty, Peace Culture Village is, you know, it's been really hard to do this. It looks really fun when I show all the pictures, and it has been amazing, but it's very challenging for many, many reasons, including being the only foreigners in an all-Japanese community, being in the countryside where there's mostly elderly folks, there not being any English, just running a nonprofit in general when none of us really know how to do that. So yeah, it's been a very fulfilling and challenging experience, and yes.
That's amazing.
Yay.
Let me pull up a chair and we'll talk. Thank you.
No problem.
I want you to know how proud we are of the work you're doing. Because you model the kind of heart and soul that Boston College wants in our graduates.
Oh my gosh,
and,
thank you so much.
You know, we all don't find our path in life 6 months after we graduate.
Yes.
It takes a while, and you're on your way. You know, who knows where else you'll go, but I think this is really awesome to see, and we're proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, but let's talk. We have, obviously, we can talk about whatever you guys want. So. Do you have questions, Madison, that came up while you were watching?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any experience with Japan or Japanese culture, but I just wanted to see like what work you've done abroad. But I'm wondering, so what is like the peace culture like in Japan? Is it like nationwide, or is it just
Good
like the
question.
cities that experience the bombs? So like, what is that like?
So, peace culture is a term that I think actually originated at the UN. So the only time I've actually heard the term peace culture outside of Hiroshima is at the United Nations.
Okay.
But people don't talk about peace culture. In Hiroshima, they also don't talk about peace culture, even at the Peace Culture Foundation. Like Steve, my boss, was asked all the time, what's peace culture? And he was like, "Rrr." So this place is kind of an attempt to begin answering that question. But I guess what Steve would say is that he talks about peace culture as opposed to war culture. So, and he links war culture to it's a culture of competition, where people are competing for themselves, for their tribe, for their family, for their country, whereas peace culture is much more based on community health, social health, and universal well-being, so that people aren't in competition, but they are striving to make sure everyone gets what they need to live a peaceful life. So, so for us at Peace Culture Village, we have two pillars of peace culture, nonviolence and sustainability. So to us, that's the definition, but people who come to Peace Culture Village have all sorts of ideas about what peace culture is, which is what makes it really interesting. So we have about 350 visitors who come through our doors every year from all over the world, and we want people to come with many different ideas, but I guess the definition of peace culture, what is it? It's like saying, what's the definition of peace? I think Hiroshima is the perfect place to be asking those questions, but I mean, having been educated in Jesuit school, I think the question of peace is obviously really important, and Jesus being the Prince of Peace, like it's everywhere in the Bible, so yeah, really good question.
Yeah, so it doesn't really have to do with war necessarily, even if it's opposed to war culture.
So it does, because so if you say like a critical piece to peace culture is nonviolence. So of course that applies to war.
Yeah.
So peace culture says that we cannot accept violence as a method of resolving our problems, and that we need to begin electing leaders who don't believe that that's a valid method of conflict resolution. But then on the more micro level, living with people from all over the world, we have conflict all the time. It is not a place without conflict. So then, in our own lives and in our own culture that we're building here, having intentional conflict resolution processes. So in Japan, everyone's very fond of the avoiding conflict method, which is actually sometimes the way to go. We've had third-party conflict resolvers come in sometimes when we have really difficult conflicts that we need to resolve. So I think no war is at the heart of it in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's some really interesting, Francisco Serafin, who was my mentor when I was here, did a lot of research about kind of comparing Japan and Germany post-war, and be interesting to have these kind of conversations in Germany too, I would imagine.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So what are you thinking of still working in Japan now, or are you trying to work here again?
Yeah, so full disclosure, I am leaving Peace Culture Village in March for something else, but I don't know what that is yet. So what I really want to do is kind of like what we were doing at Peace Culture Village, create or bring people to the countryside and use agricultural spaces or agrotourism to educate about peace and peace culture. So I am searching for, I'm really hoping that I can actually get a job in tourism in Japan so that I can get much better at Japanese, because right now I'm surrounded by all English speakers for the most part, and learn more about what it takes to, what it takes to get a tourism license, or what people in, whether people in Japan are thinking about agrotourism, and especially how the peace movement in Hiroshima is thinking about climate and how that connects to peace. I think right now that connection isn't being made. And also, just for everyone's information, so in the New York Times, there was an article called the 52 Top Places to Visit in 2019, and it's called Setouchi, which is really close to Hiroshima, was number 7.
All right.
So I do work there sometimes, and I'm really hoping that I can, maybe work there, just because it's incredible, it's beautiful. So that's the plan, but my life plans never work, so we'll see.
But still, like, staying in Japan.
Yeah, I think I'm afraid if I leave now, I won't get a chance to come back. So, and now that I have like fresh contacts, I really want to try for at least a few more years. And then I'm thinking that I really want hands-on farm experience. So, getting vocational training in how to produce organic crops, livestock, carpentry and forestry. And then maybe business school to learn how to run a nonprofit better. All thoughts. But it's sad. When I was a senior, I was like, once I make my next step, my life will be smooth sailing. And now here I am again, like questioning what I'm doing with my life. So not to discourage you, but yeah.
Could you say something about the global and the local? So you're modeling an ambitious peace-building way of life, looking outward. You're English speaking, you're American, you're living in Japan, you're taking international tourists, you're thinking about community-based tourism for international folks, but is there a tension there between the local and the global, or is it a beneficial tension, or what are some of the things that you've learned by going to a non-international place, a village that is self-contained in many ways, and then bringing some of the outside world into that in order to take some of the village to the outside world. What has that tension or relationship done for you, and what's it taught you?
Yeah. So again, it's very strange for a bunch of foreigners to be in a random Japanese village in the mountains. So and also nonprofits aren't as culturally. They're not as common as in the U.S. So a tension is that people just don't know what we're doing there, and so we could be a little bit suspicious. And another issue has been that because we are a brand new nonprofit in the countryside, and maybe it's a Japanese cultural thing too, you build trust through consistency, and we are not consistent. We're always changing our programs and trying to try new things. So Japan is not a very entrepreneurial society, and especially in the countryside, that can be a tension where it might rub people the wrong way. Another challenge has been that, so just to give an example, we had a fellow from Germany who actually rode his bike from Hiroshima City to our village. It's a 2-hour drive, and then he decided to camp out in the school grounds of the local middle school. That was very terrifying for us, because so as foreigners, if we need to be constantly on because we're representatives for all Americans or even all foreigners. So if someone who's affiliated with us does something that's a faux pas, that could be really dangerous to our reputation in the village. So those are all challenges. However, we've done 2 things to kind of try to deal with that. One is teaching English. So teaching English is something Japan wants foreigners to come in and do. And for anyone interested in working in Japan, like teaching English is like a surefire way to get in. And it's understandable. So, and with the 2020 Olympics coming up, Japan is really pushing English. So we teach English in the local community, and that's how we get involved and how we get to know people. Another thing is that the Japanese countryside is becoming very depopulated. Everyone's moving to the city. So people in the countryside are really excited that we're bringing foreigners to the countryside, and we're, hoping that, well, actually, Konu, our little village, was the only town in our
Prefecture?
Not prefecture, in our shi. It's, for example, if you have like greater Boston area, and then you have like Jamaica Plain. So like the only area that population was actually growing. So, I don't know if that had anything to do with this enterprise or not, but alternative Japanese people are interested in this sort of thing. So that's really exciting to local people. And for example, that festival I showed the video of, the locals they want us to bring more foreigners to that because there's not enough men anymore to carry that thing. So I actually women aren't supposed to do that. So they want strong foreign men to come help them carry the portable shrine. So those are things that we've done to kind of combat that, but it is challenging, and especially for people who can't speak Japanese, it's hard to communicate. Yeah.
So what do Japanese people think, like, if you're not, say a foreigner's not coming to teach English, but if they just want to like pursue a career like speaking Japanese, like do they think anything of that? Do they think maybe a Japanese person should be doing it, or?
I wouldn't say that. I've only lived in the countryside, in the small village. That's like my only experience of Japan other than my trips in the summer to this Hiroshima city. So I can't speak for everything, but in my experience, Japan, so for example, if I wanted to go get a job in, I don't know, conflict resolution in Japan might not need foreigners to do that. Or there, it's, for some reason, it's so easy to become an English teacher. So if I wanted to stay in Japan, I could teach English and I could be successful at that and I could make a living at that. I think it's probably going to be really difficult for me to get a job in tourism. So I looked up, or I was talking with one of my Japanese colleagues who works in a town hall in the tourism department, and I was asking him how I could become a licensed tour guide. And I actually would have to take the TOEFL, which is like a test for second...
The Japanese version or the English?
The Japanese version, because they don't have a path for non-Japanese people in Japan to become tour guides. So and I don't know about other countries, but in Japan specifically, I think if you don't speak fluent Japanese, like fluent, and Japanese like Korean has those multiple levels of politeness.
Yeah, sure.
So if I can speak casual Japanese, that's like a completely different language to like formal business Japanese. So the fluency, and then or for foreigners in Japan, I feel like English teaching and translation are the two like go-to careers, which is why Peace Culture Village is so bizarre. Like I wasn't working for a Japanese company. I could make my own hours because I was working for myself. So we're really weird. But that's a good question. Are you thinking about working in Germany maybe after graduation?
Yeah, that I applied to the Fulbright.
Yeah.
As an English teaching assistant. So if that doesn't work out, then I'm just trying all my other options.
Oh yeah, I'm in the same place, just
yeah.
catching a big net. See what
Actually, some of my students already in Korea and Japan, and they're also similar like a Fulbright teaching assistant, and also in Korea as well, like teaching English in Korea in even rural area. And but your case is very much sort of activism based oriented.
Yes, exactly.
So many of the dominant students actually even considering the going to abroad, not to find some temporary. It's a little bit permanent and more settled. And so it's very exciting to see, and then very much somehow experimental.
It is very.
It is
yes.
not only in content of peace, but also life. So how do you see some like reconciling activism and life?
Well, so as I said earlier, I not that I became disillusioned with activism, but I am not very good at convincing people. So when I would try to convince people that we should eliminate nuclear weapons, they might say, "Oh, well, have you thought of this?" And I would be like, "Oh my gosh, you're right." And then I would have to like go back and like it. So I think this is a type of activism, I suppose. It's teaching skills in community living, which as I believe that as climate change becomes more of a real global threat, people are going to to need to relearn how to live together in close quarters and how to work together like people in the larger Japanese village I live in do. So you said how do you reconcile activism and life?
Yeah.
Who? I mean,
Actually, I'm very fascinated, and I often encourage for students like the real path of life that you have built up. So it's really good to be exposed to such things, and then trying to, and then that is a real source for the further and additional.
Right.
You are returning, right?
So
you are returning that
yes.
after somehow completing your first phase of challenge.
Right. Right.
And
So
then back to with that, just back to so. Some students actually, is it really worth to have tackle on that, to do something after spending college years?
So personally, I'm very motivated by work that's mission driven. So for me, activism was, what was great, activism, especially peace activism, there's not a lot of young people involved in it for whatever reason. Climate activism, yes. Social justice, yes. But for some reason, peace is not a super sexy topic for young people right now. So for me, it was an opportunity right out of college to be a leader and to organize and to do things that I felt were really meaningful. So for any BC students who are interested in activism, again, it's hard because my father is a businessman and is very, successful and always gives me the best advice. And he sometimes reminds me that, you can make a difference in the world and also make money. For some reason, it's not the career I'm falling into. But so I think I question a lot what people who graduate and want to make a difference is the only place for them nonprofits. Like a lot of the work that I've done has been with nonprofits. Or are there ways to do that in the business setting for businesses who maybe, obviously profit is the goal, but then also I've been reading about B Corps recently, or benefit corporations, which are also focused on social impact and or whether the public sector is the way to do that. So, this is it's almost like a commune, actually. So, and in America that has very negative connotations. Not a cult, not Peace Cult Village, Peace Culture Village, but I would say that I'm privileged enough to, in my 20s, I came out of school without any debt. So I was able to not have to worry about that really and go explore an adventure. But I kind of gave myself my 20s to do these crazy experimental things, and it's been worth it 100%. The most fulfilling thing and challenging thing I've ever done in my life has been this project. So I would really encourage students who are feeling adventurous and to try something like that, especially abroad. It's been great.
It's so great to hear from you. It takes a lot of courage to live abroad, and just in general, even if everything is paid for you along the way, and a whole nother level to start something new, to do something that hasn't been done before, to build it up. I think that's really cool. So thank you so much for talking with us. I know I'm going to circulate this video, and
awesome.
I think people will really appreciate it, and it can really serve to kick off a sort of career talks thing. We'll probably get a more professional videographer one of these days. Make it look a little better, but you'll be our origin story of how these career talks get put online.
Awesome.
Because I think students are hungry to hear about pathways that matter, and this actually really fits nicely into this global citizenships project that I'm working on. I'll tell you more about, but and this is a really nice example of that. So
awesome.
Anyway,
Glad to hear
so
it. And
much.
if anybody wants to contact me after the fact too,
Great.
I'd be totally open.
I'll put your info down.